The sky is no longer quiet. It's rehearsing for something. Forget everything you think you know about the dark, empty expanse above us, because in the closing months of 2025, it became a stage for the inexplicable. This is not a story with a simple ending. This is a detective story written in light and shadow, a global mystery that begins not with a whisper, but with a scream of emerald fire. Picture this, October 27th, 2025, just past midnight in Moscow. The city is winding down, engines cooling, the last trains humming through the dark like metallic blood cells in a sleeping giant. Then, without warning, the sky tears open. For 3 seconds that feel like an eternity, dash cams across the city capture what looks less like a meteor and more like a wound in the atmosphere itself, a blazing, impossible green streak that turns night into day. The bolide fragments as it falls, splintering into smaller fires that cascade toward the horizon in a celestial waterfall of flame. People stop their cars, fumbling for their phones, their voices a mixture of awe and primal fear. Within minutes, the footage is everywhere. This is our anchor point, the moment the viral and the cosmic collided. But Moscow was not an isolated event. It was the crescendo of a symphony of strangeness that had been building for months. Rewind to June, a massive fireball explodes over Georgia and South Carolina in broad daylight, so bright it casts shadows at noon. Fast forward to August, spiraling lights, untraceable and serene, twist across the East Coast sky, threads of luminescence that refuse to behave like anything we recognize. The videos piled up, each one stranger than the last, each one asking the same silent, screaming question. What is happening up there? And all of it unfolds under the watchful, enigmatic eye of an interstellar wanderer known as 3I Atlas, making its closest approach to our sun. This is where we begin our investigation, a 2-hour journey to dissect the light, the data, and the lies. We will follow the trails of these fireballs into the heart of our atmosphere, and we will chase the ghostly image of 3I Atlas into the fiery corona of the sun. We will sit in the quiet rooms where scientists piece together cosmic puzzles, and we will venture into the noisy, chaotic forums where speculation ignites into belief. The question we are chasing is simple. Is this all a magnificent, terrifying coincidence? A consequence of natural forces playing out on a grand scale? Or are we witnessing the opening act of a story we don't yet have the words for? The answer is not simple. It is woven from verified facts, institutional silences, and the terrifying, beautiful human need to find meaning in the unknown. Before we go further, I want to know who is out there watching with me. The sky is a global stage, and this is a global conversation. Drop a comment below, tell me where you're tuning in from, what time it is there right now. Let's map this community under the same strange sky. And if you want to follow this investigation to its conclusion, to get real-time updates as the story unfolds, make sure to subscribe. You are the reason we can chase stories like this, and I thank you for having our back. Now, let's begin. The Moscow fireball was the spark, but the fuel for this global conflagration of curiosity was already waiting in the wings, a silent actor approaching center stage. Its name is 3I Atlas, officially designated C2025N1, discovered in July 2025 by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, ATLAS. This object was immediately flagged as unusual. It wasn't from here. Its trajectory was hyperbolic, a term that sounds complex but means something beautifully simple. It was a visitor. This comet did not originate in the frozen outer reaches of our own solar system. It was a traveler from the space between the stars, born in a stellar nursery, orbiting another sun, a cosmic drifter that had wandered the galactic dark for eons before chancing upon our little neighborhood. Its perihelion, the moment of its closest, most violent embrace with our sun, was calculated for October 29, 2025, just 2 days after the Moscow event. 2 days. The timing is a coincidence so precise it feels like narrative. But the universe is not a novelist, it is a physical system. So we must ask, is this correlation or causation? The verified facts, as established by the James Webb Space Telescope and the Very Large Telescope in Chile, are these 3I Atlases chemically foreign. The coma, that glowing envelope of gas around its nucleus, is dominated not by water vapor, like most comets from our solar system, but by carbon dioxide. It breathes differently. Its spectroscopic signature is alien, carrying the fingerprint of another star's creation. This matters. Carbon dioxide sublimates, turns from solid to gas at different temperatures than water ice. This means its behavior under the sun's wrath would be different, more volatile, less predictable. It is a different beast, and we were about to watch it enter the dragon's den. To understand the panic, you must first understand the apparent pattern. Pull up a map of the Earth and start marking the points of light. Moscow, October 27th. Georgia and South Carolina, mid-June. The East Coast spirals, August. Now add the dozens of other reports flooding in through the American Meteor Society network, the NASA Fireball database, the European Space Agency's tracking systems. At first glance, it looks alarming, like a drumbeat of celestial artillery testing our atmospheric defenses with increasing frequency. But here is the crucial context that gets lost in the viral panic. We were quite literally in the middle of a meteor shower season. The Orionids, debris from Halley's Comet, peaked around October 21st, 22nd. Hot on their heels, the Taurids kicked into gear, active from late October into November. The Taurids are notorious for producing bright, headline-making fireballs. This is not conspiracy, this is calendar. On a typical quiet night, Earth might experience 5 to 10 bright, naked-eye fireballs across the entire planet. During a strong shower overlap, that number can triple or quadruple. Now add the final, critical ingredient: we have more eyes on the sky than at any point in human history. Dashcams in every car in Russia, doorbell cameras in suburban America, smartphones in every pocket. This is called detection bias. The sky isn't necessarily getting more active, we are finally seeing what was always there. Imagine installing a dozen new smoke detectors in your house. Suddenly, you notice every bit of burnt toast. The house isn't burning down more often, you're just paying attention. The Moscow bolide upon scientific triage is a textbook case. The green coloration, consistent with nickel or magnesium vaporizing under atmospheric friction. The fragmentation, classic behavior of a stony meteoroid succumbing to dynamic pressure. The physics doesn't scream anomaly, it screams meteor. But when a strange comet is in the headlines, every natural light in the sky becomes part of its story. Let's map the timeline of panic versus the timeline of proof. On October 27th, the Moscow fireball goes viral within hours. By the 28th, social media is a frenzy of speculation, connecting dots with the frantic energy of a conspiracy theorist's pinboard. Meanwhile, the first official statement from Russian astronomical authorities doesn't arrive until October 30th. NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office issues a preliminary bulletin on November 1st. The European Space Agency's update on 3I Atlas perihelion observations appears on November 3rd. Notice the pattern? The gaps between event and explanation are wide enough to drive a fleet of conspiracy theories through, and people do exactly that. This isn't necessarily malice or incompetence, this is the grinding, meticulous pace of institutional science. Coronagraph images require processing to remove noise and artifacts. Ephemeris calculations need validation against multiple datasets. Calibration takes time because these are precise scientific instruments, not smartphone cameras. The layers of verification are there to prevent the release of bad information, but those layers take time. And time is the one resource the internet has no patience for. Science has a review board, social media has a post button. This friction creates a dangerous vacuum. A user clips an ambiguous frame from a SOFA coronagraph feed. An influencer with millions of followers reposts it with a sensational caption, "NASA hides perihelion footage." The algorithm, blind to truth but acutely sensitive to engagement, amplifies it. Within 48 hours, a marginal, unverified observation becomes a mainstream talking point. The narrative achieves escape velocity before the science can even get its boots on. Into this information vacuum pours a torrent of ancient fears and modern narratives. Watch the hashtags. Within 6 hours of the Moscow fireball, wormwood starts trending globally. Revelation 8:10-11 describes a star called wormwood falling from heaven and poisoning the waters, a biblical prophecy of cosmic calamity. Halley's Comet in 1910 sparked wormwood panic. The Tunguska event of 1908 was retroactively linked to it. Now, in 2025, 3I Atlas, an object from another star, becomes the new candidate. The symbolism is too perfect to ignore. Meanwhile, secular conspiracy networks resurrect Project Blue Beam, the theory that global elites will use holographic technology to fake an alien invasion or religious event to impose authoritarian control. The Moscow fireball is absorbed into this framework. The August spirals become evidence. Every data gap becomes proof of a cover-up. This is not about theology or factual accuracy, it is about cultural analysis. Eschatological narratives offer structure to chaos. They give meaning to randomness. When the world feels unstable, the idea that everything is unfolding according to a divine or sinister plan can be perversely comforting. The physics of comets doesn't care about human stories, but human stories care desperately about physics when it manifests as fire in the sky. Cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias seal the deal. If you already believe the government hides information, every delayed statement confirms it. If you believe we are in the end times, every anomaly is another sign. The human brain is wired to resolve dissonance by selecting evidence that aligns with prior conclusions. It's a feature, not a bug. And in the attention economy, this dynamic is not just tolerated, it is monetized. Controversy generates views, and views translate to revenue. A sober explanation of meteor shower statistics doesn't get clicks. A breathless breakdown of alleged government censorship does. To separate the signal from the noise, we must return to the bedrock of physics. Let's talk about why things in the sky have color, because color is information. When a meteoroid slams into our atmosphere at speeds between 11 and 72 kilometers per second, it isn't burning in the traditional sense. It is undergoing ablation. Its surface material is being violently stripped away and vaporized by friction with air molecules. This vapor cloud is superheated to thousands of degrees, becoming a plasma hot enough to excite atoms, causing them to emit light at specific, characteristic wavelengths. Nickel produces a vivid green line. Magnesium glows blue-green. Iron gives off yellow-orange. The intense green of the Moscow fireball points directly to nickel or magnesium content, elements common in certain stony or iron-rich meteorites. There is nothing exotic about a green meteor, it is a straightforward chemical fingerprint. The spectacle of fragmentation is equally understood. Meteoroids are not solid billiard balls, they are often fragile aggregates, rubble piles held together by feeble gravity. As they plunge deeper, atmospheric density increases and dynamic pressure, a function of velocity squared, skyrockets. If the pressure exceeds the object's tensile strength, it shatters. Each new fragment presents a fresh surface to the onslaught of air, creating secondary flares and a cascading terminal burst. The Moscow footage is a perfect exhibit of this progressive breakup. Compare it to the Chelyabinsk meteor of 2013 or the Midwest fireball of 2023, and you see the same patterns, repeatable and predictable. This is the ordinary, extraordinary violence of a rock meeting air at cosmic speeds. It is beautiful, it is terrifying, and it is, fundamentally, known. While meteors were painting our atmosphere with transient fire, 3I Atlas was heading into its own trial by fire perihelion. For a comet, this is everything. At great distances from the Sun, it is a dormant, frozen nucleus. As it approaches, solar radiation heats it, and volatiles begin to sublimate. For a carbon dioxide-rich comet like 3I Atlas, this process begins earlier and behaves more vigorously than for a water-ice comet. CO2 is a more volatile fuel. Jets form geyser-like eruptions of gas bursting from the sunlit side of the rotating nucleus. These jets can be powerful enough to act like tiny, uncontrolled rocket thrusters, nudging the comet off a purely gravitational path, a phenomenon known as non-gravitational acceleration. This is critical. It means a comet's path is not dictated by gravity alone, but by the complex interplay of its rotation, its surface composition, and the sun's relentless heat. Now add the solar wind, a constant supersonic stream of charged particles flowing from the sun. This plasma slams into the comet's coma, sculpting a visible ion tail that always points away from the sun. During periods of high solar activity, like the one occurring in late 2025, coronal mass ejections, billion-ton blobs of magnetized plasma, can slam into a comet, causing disconnection events where the tail is literally torn off and reforms. To a solar physicist, this is Tuesday. To a public primed for mystery, it can look like intelligent control. The sun is not a passive backdrop, it is an active, violent participant, pushing and pulling on the comet, creating visual effects that are natural, yet spectacularly strange. Our window into this cosmic drama is framed by our instruments, and every instrument has a personality, a set of strengths and blind spots. The James Webb Space Telescope provided the stunning spectroscopy that revealed the CO2-dominated coma, but it is a sniper, not a machine gun. It takes brilliant scheduled snapshots, not continuous video. Hubble offers high-resolution imaging but cannot look too close to the sun without risking damage. The workhorses for solar observation are coronagraphs, like those on the SOHO spacecraft, which use an occulting disk to block the sun's blinding face, allowing us to see the faint corona and passing comets. But coronagraphs have limitations. They saturate easily. They produce streaks and artifacts from diffraction. They have protective modes that create data gaps. When 3i Atlas dove closest to the sun, it passed through these observational blind spots. To the public, a missing frame looks like censorship. To an astronomer, it's a frustrating but normal engineering constraint. This is the chasm between perception and reality. To confirm something truly extraordinary, like a deliberate maneuver, you would need a high bar of evidence. Multiple independent instruments detecting the same anomalous change in velocity, a change that is inconsistent with any possible outgassing model, occurring at a time that doesn't correlate with solar heating. So far for 3i Atlas, every observed wiggle in its path has been consistent with the expected, if unusual, outgassing of a carbon dioxide-rich comet. The instruments are telling a consistent story. The challenge is that the story itself is complex and requires patience to understand. Why do the institutions that hold this dice move so slowly? The answer lies in a tangled web of incentives, constraints, and legitimate fears. Institutions like NASA and ESA are first and foremost in the credibility business. If they release preliminary data that turns out to be wrong, like the infamous faster-than-light neutrino error of 2011, which was later traced to a loose cable, the loss of public trust is immense and lasting. They are conditioned to be cautious. Second, they must balance transparency with the need to avoid panic. Planetary defense protocols, for instance, are designed to triage threats. Announcing every preliminary detection of a potential asteroid would create constant false alarms and breed complacency when a real one finally comes. Third, there are legitimate security concerns. Military space surveillance networks have capabilities that overlap with civilian astronomy, but revealing the full extent of their resolution or coverage could compromise national security. This creates a friction where data exists but is sanitized before release. The standard scientific pipeline: observation, internal verification, peer review, staged public release, is designed for accuracy, not speed. It can take weeks or months. In the age of the internet, that is an eternity. Into that gap, speculation rushes like water into a sinking ship. A clear, bold speculation watermark appears on screen. Narrator: now we arrive at the most speculative part of our investigation. There must be unequivocal. What follows is a thought experiment with a probability substantially below 1%. This is not a claim, it is an exploration of a what-if scenario to understand the logic used by some enthusiasts. Everything from this point forward in this section is labeled as speculative. The concept is the Oberth maneuver, a real principle of orbital mechanics. It states that a rocket burn performed deep within a gravity well, where an object is moving at its highest velocity, produces a disproportionately large change in trajectory. For a comet passing near the Sun, perihelion is the perfect place for such a burn. Researcher Stefan Burns has explored this in detail, hypothesizing a scenario he calls Project Dawn. What if 3i Atlas was not a natural comet but a probe with limited propellant? A precisely timed tiny burn at perihelion could use the Oberth effect to alter its outbound path, potentially setting a course for a rendezvous with the Jupiter system months later. Why Jupiter? The Galilean moons, Europa with its subsurface ocean, Ganymede with its magnetic field, are considered prime real estate for potential future colonization, offering water, relative safety, and resources. The physics of such a maneuver is sound. The probability of 3i Atlas being an artificial object performing it is vanishingly small. The null hypothesis, that it is a natural, if unusual, interstellar comet, remains overwhelmingly the most likely. But this thought experiment illustrates a crucial point. The known physics of spaceflight allows for such a possibility. The line between science and science fiction is not always a chasm. Sometimes it is a hair's breadth, defined not by impossibility but by evidence. And so far, the evidence for 3i Atlas remains firmly on the side of a natural origin. The resolution of mysteries like these often hinges on precision, and a technological revolution is coming that will shrink ambiguity to near zero. Quantum timing systems based on entangled photons and optical lattice clocks are achieving synchronization accuracies measured in picoseconds, trillionths of a second. Imagine a global network of all-sky cameras synced not by GPS, but by quantum entanglement. Currently, Meteor trajectories can be triangulated with uncertainties of hundreds of meters. With quantum timing, that uncertainty shrinks to mere meters. We could resolve not just the path of a meteor, but its rotation, its fragmentation dynamics in microsecond detail. For tracking objects like 3i Atlas, quantum-sync telescopes could combine their signals to act as a single, planet-sized instrument, allowing us to directly image the comet's nucleus in stunning detail from millions of kilometers away. This isn't science fiction. The research is underway in Europe, the US, and China. The philosophical implication is profound ambiguity is often not a feature of nature, but a feature of our measurement limitations. As those limitations dissolve, so too does the fertile ground for speculation. The sky's riddles will become harder to hide as our clocks get better. We will be able to distinguish between an outgassing jet and a hypothetical engine burn with definitive, undeniable data. The future of cosmic observation is one of crystalline clarity. Something fundamental changed in astronomy in 2025, and most of the world missed it. The primary watchers of the sky are no longer human. The Vera Rubin Observatory, among others, now operates with an anomaly recognition and triage engine artificial intelligence that scans the cosmos 24/7, flagging anything unusual without a human ever checking first. It processes 15 terabytes of image data per night, finding thousands of transient supernovae, asteroids, glitches. The benefits are revolutionary. Speed, consistency, the ability to find needles in cosmic haystacks that would take humans decades. But there is a shadow. AI models are only as good as their training data. If they encounter something truly novel, they can misclassify it or dump it into an unknown category. More dangerously, they can generate false positives, flagging a satellite glint or a detector artifact as an extraordinary anomaly. Now imagine the cascade. The AI flags an unknown erratic object. An automatic alert posts to an astronomer's telegram. Within an hour, it's on social media. Within 6, it's a trending news story. Within 24 hours, scientists determine it was a simple error. But by then, the narrative has achieved escape velocity. This creates an explanation gap, where speculation and panic spread at digital speeds while science moves at its own deliberate pace. The policy question is urgent. Who is responsible for vetting AI alerts before they go public? The age of autonomous discovery has begun, and we are not yet prepared for the social consequences of its mistakes. We must never forget the true sovereign of our solar system, the Sun. In September 2025, the European Space Agency's solar orbiter completed its first pass over the Sun's south pole and revealed a shocking truth. The magnetic fields there were more chaotic and dynamic than any model had predicted. We are ascending toward a solar maximum, and this cycle is proving to be more energetic and unpredictable than anticipated. This is not an academic detail, it is the master variable. Between mid-September and late October 25, the Sun unleashed 7 M-class and 3X-class solar flares, alongside multiple coronal mass ejections that triggered auroras as far south as Texas and southern Europe. 3i Atlas was bathing in this torrent of solar fury during its perihelion. Any brightening, any tail distortion, any apparent anomaly must be viewed through this lens. Solar weather creates observational havoc. It causes atmospheric scintillation that makes stars twinkle violently. It induces ionospheric distortions that bend radio waves. It degrades the seeing for optical telescopes. Some of the strangeness attributed to the comet was likely the Sun interfering with our view. The Sun is the loudest voice in the room. If we don't listen to it, we will misinterpret every whisper from the objects passing by. At the 2025 Consumer Electronics Show, a company called Sky Canvas used a drone swarm with synchronized LEDs to project a stunning three-dimensional phoenix into the desert sky. In Tokyo, another firm used femtosecond lasers to ionize the air, writing glowing kanji characters 50 meters above the skyline. The age of synthetic skies has arrived. The technology for creating convincing, localized aerial illusions is here. It is not yet capable of a global, Project Bluebeam-style deception, but it is more than capable of fooling a city. Imagine a scenario: a high-fidelity illusion is projected above a populated area for 15 minutes. Hundreds of people film it. The videos go viral. Experts find no signs of digital manipulation because the phenomenon was physically real, just artificially generated. The debate explodes. The ambiguity becomes the story. This is the new frontier of deception. It doesn't require a vast conspiracy. It requires a corporation testing an advertising platform, a prankster seeking attention, or a political group staging a provocation. The cumulative effect of many small, convincing deceptions could be as corrosive to public trust as one grand conspiracy. Distinguishing the real from the synthetic, now requires a new kind of literacy: multi-angle corroboration, cross-verification with infrared or radar data, and spectral analysis. The most dangerous illusions may not be the ones in the sky, but the ones we project onto events because we've lost the ability to trust our own eyes. So here we are. We have followed the light from the dash cams of Moscow to the coronagraphs watching the sun. We have dissected the physics of green fire and the chemistry of interstellar ice. We have seen how our instruments see and how our institutions communicate. We have entertained wild possibilities and grounded ourselves in known facts. The verified bedrock is this: 3i Atlas was real. The meteors were real. The technological and social forces that amplified them are real. The rest resides in the realm of the uncertain. The fundamental question this entire saga forces us to confront is not what is 3i Atlas, but how do we, as a society, live with cosmic uncertainty? Our brains are wired for pattern recognition, not for epistemological humility. We crave resolution, and our digital ecosystem punishes the admission of "I don't know." There are 4 paths forward. We can place our trust in institutions, but that trust must be earned through transparency. We can demand radical transparency, opening data to citizen scientists, but that risks information anarchy. We can strive for skeptical humility, accepting that some mysteries remain unresolved, even if that stance is culturally unpopular, or we can learn to embrace mystery as a source of wonder, not anxiety. The mature path is a blend of all 4. The old model of a priestly class of experts delivering truths to a passive public is dead. We are all fumbling towards a new way of knowing, one that acknowledges the limits of our tools and our own psychology. The consequence of failure is a world of panic, cynicism, and exploited credulity. The benefit of success is a society resilient, curious, and wise enough to face whatever the cosmos reveals next, be it rock, ice, or something that challenges the very foundation of what we are. The sky is speaking. We must now decide collectively how to listen. To truly understand the gravity of the 2025 events, we must look back at the moments in history when the cosmos intruded upon human consciousness, leaving indelible scars and sparks of wonder. The Great Comet of 1577, observed by the astronomer Tycho Brahe, shattered the ancient Aristotelian belief that comets were atmospheric phenomena. By demonstrating it existed beyond the moon, it fundamentally broke the cosmology of the age. The Tunguska event of 1908, a multi-megaton aerial explosion over Siberia, flattened 2,000 square kilometers of forest. Had it occurred just a few hours later, it would have annihilated a major European city, a stark reminder of our vulnerability. In 1910, as Halley's Comet passed by, charlatans sold comet pills to protect people from the cyanogen gas detected in its tail, showcasing how scientific discovery can be twisted into panic and profit. The War of the Worlds radio broadcast in 1938 demonstrated that the fear of an extraterrestrial event could be as potent and real as the event itself, causing mass hysteria with nothing more than words and sound effects. These historical precedents form a pattern, a celestial event followed by a paradigm shift, a wave of fear, or a manipulation of public anxiety. The 2025 cluster is unique not in its kind but in its scale and velocity. The fireballs are our Tunguska echoes. The social media panic is our War of the Worlds on a global algorithmic scale. And 3i Atlas is our great comet, challenging not a geocentric model, but our understanding of our solitary place in a galaxy that may be teeming with interstellar travelers. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, and in 2025 the sky was composing a terrifying and beautiful poem whose verses we were only beginning to decipher.
It would be my first time to see the president's empty. I have the world failure for the cosmos.
Can it be found as that comet epic recording? It is a constructed reality, a best guess narrative assembled by our senses and prior experiences. When thousands of people witnessed the Moscow fireball, they didn't just see a light, their brains instantly sought to categorize it. The descriptors they used, alien-like green fireball, are a blend of sensory input and cultural vocabulary. The color green is a factual spectral observation, but alien-like is a narrative interpretation, a shortcut for unfamiliar and terrifying. This is the foundation of all eyewitness testimony, and it is notoriously unreliable under stress. Furthermore, our neurology is primed for apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. Seeing the face of Jesus on a piece of toast is a benign example. Connecting a meteor shower in Russia to an interstellar comet's orbit is a cosmic one. This isn't stupidity, it is a cognitive default setting that helped our ancestors connect the rustle in the grass to a potential predator. In the modern context, this instinct, when combined with the social proof of millions of people sharing the same videos, creates an unshakable collective belief. The brain's reward system lights up when it finds a pattern, delivering a dose of dopamine that makes the connection feel not just plausible, but true. This neurochemical reinforcement is why debunking is so difficult. You are not arguing against a fact, but against a physically reinforced feeling of certainty. The human sensorium is the final and most contested battleground in the story of 3i Atlas, where photons become fear and data becomes dogma. The paradox of the 21st century is that we are simultaneously drowning in data and starving for wisdom. The event cluster of 2025 generated an almost incomprehensible volume of information, petabytes of satellite imagery, millions of social media posts, thousands of scientific data points from telescopes and radar installations. This deluge creates a new kind of problem. The signal-to-noise ratio becomes infinitesimally small. How do you find the one crucial frame of a comet's jet in a terabyte of coronagraph video? How do you identify the single, verifiable eyewitness account among a million panicked tweets? The tools we use to sift this data are themselves part of the problem. Search algorithms are not designed for truth, they are designed for engagement. They will surface the most dramatic, emotionally charged content first because that is what keeps users scrolling. This creates a distorted picture of reality, where the most extreme interpretations are amplified and the mundane scientific explanations are buried. Furthermore, the very language of data creates a barrier. A scientist saying the ephemeris data shows a non-gravitational acceleration consistent with asymmetric CO2 sublimation is speaking a truth, but it is a truth that is inaccessible to most. An influencer saying the comet just made a sharp turn that NASA can't explain is speaking a falsehood, but it is a falsehood that is immediately and viscerally understood. This epistemic crisis, where the volume of information erodes the very concept of a shared, verifiable reality, is the true backdrop of the 3i Atlas story. We are not just investigating a comet, we are navigating the ruins of a common epistemological ground, where everyone has a piece of the puzzle, but no one can agree on the picture it's supposed to form. In the speculative narrative of Project Dawn, the target is not Mars, not Earth, but the Jupiter system. This is a strategically sound choice, and understanding why requires a journey to the solar system's gas giant. Jupiter is not just a planet, it is a miniature solar system in its own right, and its 4 Galilean moons represent the most compelling real estate beyond Earth. Europa, with its smooth, cracked, icy crust, hides a subsurface saltwater ocean containing more liquid water than all of Earth's oceans combined. It is a prime candidate in the search for extraterrestrial life. Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, is even more intriguing. It has a tenuous oxygen atmosphere and, uniquely, its own magnetic field, which offers a degree of protection from Jupiter's ferocious radiation belts. Callisto, scarred with ancient craters, is geologically stable and sits outside the worst of the radiation, making it an ideal staging post or a site for a permanent shielded habitat. Io, a world of constant volcanic eruption, is a hellscape, but a resource-rich one, potentially mining for sulfur and other volatiles. From a colonization standpoint, this system offers everything: water for life support and rocket fuel, potential energy sources, and relative safety in numbers. A journey to the Jupiter system is a multi-year voyage, a commitment that implies long-term planning and advanced propulsion. If one were to imagine an interstellar probe on a one-way mission to establish a beachhead, or to study a potentially life-harboring world like Europa, Jupiter is the logical destination. The gravity of Jupiter, both physical and strategic, makes it the central prize in any long-term plan for interplanetary expansion, a fact that lends a chilling logical plausibility to the most extreme speculations surrounding 3i Atlas's outbound trajectory. In any grand mystery, we must pay as much attention to what is absent as to what is present. This is the concept of silent evidence. In the case of 3i Atlas, the silent evidence is deafening. Despite the global frenzy, there was no confirmed radio signal, no structured optical transmission, no artifact on the nucleus visible at the highest resolutions from Hubble or JWST. The non-gravitational accelerations, while unusual for a solar system comet, fit within the broad envelope of behavior for a volatile-rich, freshly heated interstellar object. The missing coronagraph frames were, without exception, explained by known instrumental limitations and were subsequently filled in by data from the stereo spacecraft, which had a different viewing angle. The official statements from a dozen international space agencies, while slow, were ultimately consistent and transparent, releasing their data and models for independent verification. There was no crack in the scientific consensus, no credentialed expert breaking ranks with a claim of artificiality that withstood scrutiny. This collective, global silence on the extraordinary is, in itself, a powerful form of evidence. It points toward the null hypothesis that we are observing a natural, if fascinating, phenomenon. The human mind, however, is terrible at evaluating negative evidence. We are drawn to the flash of a fireball, not to the millions of hours of telescope data where nothing happens. We remember the one weird frame and forget the 10,000 normal ones. The silent evidence tells a story of a universe operating according to physical laws, a story of professional scientists doing their jobs, and a story of a public narrative that ran far ahead of the facts. It is the most boring and therefore the most convincing part of the entire saga. To understand how 3i Atlas became a nexus for conspiracy, we must dissect the anatomy of a modern conspiracy theory. It begins not with a lie but with a legitimate question, a kernel of true uncertainty. Why are the coronagraph images from Soho incomplete during perihelion? This valid question is then injected into a community primed for suspicion. Step 1. Connect the dots. The incomplete data is linked to the Meteor sightings, which are linked to the comet's strange chemistry, creating a pattern that feels too significant to be accidental. Step 2. Assign agency. The pattern must be the result of a conscious actor. It can't be random engineering faults and natural phenomena. It must be NASA or the global elites deliberately hiding the truth. Step 3. Interpret all new information through the lens of the theory. Any new official statement becomes a cover-up. Any scientist offering a natural explanation becomes a paid shill. Any lack of evidence becomes proof of how well the evidence is being hidden. This creates a closed, self-sealing logic loop that is immune to falsification. Step 4. Create in-group cohesion. Believers share a common lexicon, a set of sacred texts, leaked videos, out-of-context quotes, and a shared enemy. This creates a powerful sense of identity and belonging. Step 5. Monetize. The attention is harnessed. YouTube channels run ads on their breaking videos. Websites sell survival gear or premium insider newsletters. The conspiracy becomes a business model, creating a powerful incentive to keep the narrative alive, regardless of its truth. The 3i Atlas saga is a textbook case of this process, unfolding at the speed of light across global digital networks. It is a social and psychological phenomenon as complex and worthy of study as the comet itself. Amidst the speculation of probes and colonization, we must confront the harsh limiting principles of biology itself. The universe may be physically capable of hosting interstellar travel, but is it biologically feasible? The challenges are staggering. The distance between stars alone imposes a tyranny of the rocket equation requiring immense energy or time. A journey lasting millennia, even for a robotic probe, demands systems of near-perfect reliability and redundancy. For any biological entity, the problems multiply. Radiation exposure, the psychological toll of confinement, the need for a self-sustaining closed-loop ecosystem, and the debilitating effects of long-term microgravity on the human body. Then there is the Great Filter hypothesis, which suggests that the reason we see no evidence of other civilizations is that some barrier, perhaps the emergence of life, the evolution of intelligence, or the self-destruction through technology, is almost impossible to pass. If the filter is behind us, the galaxy might be teeming with life. If it is ahead of us, our solitude is a grim prognosis. 3i Atlas, as a natural object, fits comfortably within a universe where the Great Filter is still in effect. The speculative idea of it being an artificial probe pushes against these biological and probabilistic limits. It suggests a civilization that has solved not only the physics of interstellar travel, but also the biological and sociological challenges of long-term spacefaring, or has mastered artificial intelligence to a degree that biological beings are no longer necessary for exploration. While not impossible, this leaps over multiple monumental hurdles. The silence of the cosmos, broken only by the natural whisper of objects like 3i Atlas, may be telling us that the universe is profoundly, and perhaps mercifully, boring when it comes to intelligence. By the spring of 2026, the fireballs had faded from the headlines and 3I Atlas was a receding speck on its way back to the interstellar void. But the world it left behind was subtly, irrevocably changed. The event cluster of 2025 had acted as a global stress test, revealing fractures in our information ecosystem and in our collective psyche. In its wake, public funding for planetary defense and near-Earth object surveys saw a significant, if temporary, boost. The 3I Atlas incident became a case study in universities, taught in courses on media studies, sociology, and astronomy. A new generation of citizen science projects emerged, better equipped to collaborate with professional astronomers and more savvy about data provenance. The scientific community, stung by the public relations debacle, began to develop new protocols for rapid response communication, creating explanation task forces ready to deploy when the next viral cosmic event occurred. Culturally, the experience left a residue of both cynicism and wonder. For some, it confirmed their deepest suspicions about institutional untrustworthiness. For others, it was an awakening to the sheer, awe-inspiring scale and activity of our cosmic environment. The sky was no longer a static painting, it was a dynamic and occasionally violent ocean. The legacy of 3I Atlas is not an answer, but a shift in perception. We now look up with a new, more nuanced anxiety, aware that the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, but that our tools for understanding it are both powerful and profoundly limited, and that the stories we tell about it are as consequential as the facts themselves. The one certainty is that 3I Atlas will not be the last. The Vera Rubin Observatory is now fully operational, its AI eyes scanning the entire visible sky every few nights. It is only a matter of time before it finds something that defies all classification, a light that moves in a way that cannot be explained by gravity alone, an object with a shape that is geometrically perfect, a signal that is structured and repeating. The next anomaly is coming. The question is, will we be ready? The events of 2025 were a dress rehearsal. They showed us our vulnerabilities, the speed of social media, the limitations of our instruments, the fragility of public trust, the allure of sensationalism. Preparing for the next one requires a multifaceted strategy. Technologically, it means investing in the quantum timing networks and multi-wavelength observation platforms that can deliver unambiguous data. Institutionally, it means pre-establishing international communication channels and clear, pre-written public explanation templates for various scenarios. Culturally, it means fostering a public that is scientifically literate, but also epistemically humble, capable of holding two ideas at once, that the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence would be the most profound event in human history, and that the vast majority of anomalies will have mundane explanations. We need a global immune system for strange ideas, one that can quickly identify and quarantine misinformation without suppressing genuine inquiry. The next 3I Atlas might be just a comet, or it might be the one. Our ability to tell the difference and to respond with both wisdom and wonder will be the ultimate test of our maturity as a cosmic species. Beyond the data, the institutions, and the conspiracies, there is the most important battleground of all, the individual human heart. What does the sky mean to you? For the scientist, it is a data set, a series of questions to be answered. For the pastor, it is a creation, a testament to divine power. For the child, it is a canvas for wonder. The events of 2025 forced a confrontation between these personal cosmologies. When a green fireball tears through your reality, it is not an abstract event, it is a personal one. It interrupts your drive home, it disrupts your sense of safety, it demands an explanation that aligns with your worldview. This is why the debate was so visceral. It was not just about rocks and ice, it was about the meaning of existence. Are we alone? Is there a plan? Can we trust the people in charge? The sky became a Rorschach test onto which we projected our deepest hopes and fears. The challenge, then, is to build a personal relationship with the cosmos that is both humble and courageous, one that can find beauty in the known physics of a green meteor and hold space for the possibility of the extraordinary. It is to look up at the stars and feel both insignificant and uniquely privileged to be a part of a universe capable of generating a creature that can look back and ask, why? The story of 3I Atlas in the end is not about a comet, it is about us. It is a mirror held up to our ingenuity, our fear, our credulity, and our insatiable need to find our place in the great, dark, and stunningly beautiful void, let's entertain the speculation one step further and confront the truly monstrous engineering challenges of an interstellar probe. If 3i Atlas were an artificial object, its very existence would imply a technology so far beyond our own as to be indistinguishable from magic. First, consider the energy requirement. To accelerate even a small probe to a fraction of light speed requires energy on the scale of global human civilization's entire output for years. The propulsion system is beyond our comprehension, perhaps matter-antimatter annihilation, or harnessing the fabric of space-time itself. Second, durability. The object spent countless millennia in the interstellar medium, a vacuum filled with cosmic rays and micrometeoroids, traveling at relativistic speeds where a collision with a dust mote would release the energy of a nuclear bomb. Its hull would need to be made of a material with unimaginable strength and self-repair capabilities. Third, computation and autonomy. With light-minute or light-year delays in communication, the probe must be supremely intelligent, capable of making complex navigational decisions and repairing itself over million-year timescales. Fourth, and most critically, purpose. What is its mission? To colonize? Then it would need to be a von Neumann probe capable of self-replication using raw materials from asteroids, which raises the Fermi paradox to a screaming pitch. If such things exist, why isn't the galaxy already filled with them? The sheer, staggering scale of these engineering feats makes the natural comet hypothesis not just more likely, but overwhelmingly, almost comically more probable. The interstellar probe scenario is a fun thought experiment, but it requires suspending not just disbelief, but the known laws of physics and economics as we understand them. The investigation into the 2025 events had a price tag. Every hour of James Webb Space Telescope time, every data download from Solar Orbiter, every analyst at NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office. It is all funded by public money, allocated by governments with competing priorities. This is the often ignored economic reality of cosmic discovery. The search for answers operates within a brutal economy of attention and resources. A congressperson must be convinced that studying a strange comet is more important than fixing a bridge or funding a hospital. This creates perverse incentives. Scientists, to secure funding, must sometimes oversell the potential of their research, emphasizing the mystery and potential for breakthrough. On the flip side, the fear generated by events like the Moscow fireball can be a powerful political motivator, leading to a surge in funding for planetary defense that might not have been possible otherwise. There is also a private economy at play. The YouTube channels that monetized the panic, the websites that sold survival gear, the authors who rushed out books about the 3i Atlas enigma, they all profited from the uncertainty. This creates a shadow funding model for misinformation, where the most dramatic and fear-inducing narrative is the most financially rewarding. Understanding the flow of money, who pays for the science, and who profits from the speculation, is essential to decoding the full story. The truth about our cosmos is not just found in telescopes, it's also found in budget reports and ad revenue analytics, a sobering reminder that even our quest for the sublime is tethered to the mundane realities of economics. Human civilization operates on a timescale of years, decades, and centuries. The cosmos operates on a timescale of millennia, eons, and galactic years. This disconnect is at the heart of our misunderstanding. 3i Atlas did not arrive in 2025. It has been on its journey for millions of years. Its passage through our solar system was a brief, fleeting encounter, a blink of an eye in its long life. We are like mayflies trying to comprehend the life cycle of a sequoia tree. This long now perspective changes everything. If there is intelligence out there, it is almost certainly not synchronized with our frantic, short-lived civilization. A probe might visit our solar system every 100,000 years as part of a regular survey. A civilization might broadcast signals for 1,000,000 years, then go silent, their messages washing over a Earth that was still in the Precambrian era. The significance of 3i Atlas is not in the 2 weeks it was in our headlines, but in the geological time it represents. It is a sample of a building block from another star, a piece of a puzzle that spans light years. Our haste to label it, to explain it, to fit it into our human-scale narrative is almost comically arrogant. To truly engage with the cosmos, we must learn to think in cosmic time. We must build institutions and knowledge systems that can outlive us, that can patiently wait and watch for the next fragment of the grand story to drift into view. Whether that is next year or in 10,000 years, the sky isn't going anywhere. The challenge is to build a civilization that is patient enough to listen. After this long journey through data and speculation, we can now attempt a unified theory of the 2025 event cluster. It is not a single simple answer, but a tapestry woven from multiple, simultaneous truths. The astronomical truth is that Earth experienced a period of heightened but statistically plausible meteor activity due to overlapping showers, observed with unprecedented clarity by a global network of cameras. The cometary truth is that a genuinely unusual carbon dioxide-rich interstellar object made a close pass by the Sun, behaving in ways that were novel to us, but consistent with the laws of physics for its composition. The solar truth is that our star was in a period of heightened activity, which both affected the comet's behavior and degraded our ability to observe it cleanly. The sociological truth is that these events collided with a human culture primed by science fiction, fractured by mistrust in institutions, and driven by digital algorithms that reward sensationalism. The psychological truth is that our brains, wired for pattern recognition, connected these dots into a narrative of significance, fueled by ancient fears and a deep desire for meaning. No single thread explains the whole. There was no cover-up, but there was institutional slowness. There was no alien probe, but there was a genuinely alien object. The mystery was not in the sky alone, but in the interaction between the cosmos and the human mind. The unification theory is that we witnessed a perfectly natural, multi-layered cosmic event that was processed through a perfectly chaotic, multi-layered human system. The result was not a discovery of what's out there, but a profound revelation of what's down here. We end where we began. Looking up, the frenzy has faded. Three-Eye Atlas is gone, a silent speck receding into the eternal night from whence it came. The Fireball videos have been archived. The online debates have moved on to the next controversy, and we are left with the silent, star-dusted sky and the eternal question it poses: are we alone? The 2025 event cluster did not answer this question. In fact, it made the silence that followed seem even deeper and more profound. The universe presented us with a truly strange series of events, and the collective scientific effort of our species concluded, with high confidence, that it was all natural. This is, in its own way, a stunning result. It means the universe is capable of generating wonders and coincidences that push the very limits of our imagination, without requiring any intelligence beyond our own. The great filter may still be ahead of us. The cosmos may be largely or entirely empty of other minds. This solitude is a terrifying and beautiful possibility. It means we are the universe's one fragile chance to know itself. Or perhaps the next anomaly will be the one that moves with purpose, the one that speaks. The events of 2025 were a drill. They tested our instruments, our institutions, and our souls. They showed us we are not yet ready for first contact, but that we are learning. The work is not to find an answer in the sky, but to build a world down here that is worthy of the question. A world that is curious, humble, brave, and united enough that when the sky finally does speak our name, we will be ready to answer.